Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Commsverse attendees. Welcome to session 201, titled Microsoft Teams Education, Best Practices, Pitfalls and Expectations, brought to you by Laurent Carlier.
Hi, thanks, Adrian. Welcome everyone to Commsverse conference, and thanks for joining my session. First, a little bit about myself. My name is Laurent Carlier, and I am a MVP from France. Former teachers, I work today for DigiTeam as an EdTech consultant and change management consultant. We are Microsoft Gold Partner and Microsoft in Education Global Training Partner, and we help schools and educational institutions on their digital journey on Office 365 education and Teams. You can reach me by mail or Twitter. The agenda I propose you for today is on 4 points. The first, we will see 4 facts about Microsoft Teams education. Secondly, we will see 5 best practices to follow as an educator. Then we will see 3 pitfalls to avoid. And finally, I will present you some expectation about Microsoft Teams education with 1 key sentences, that is, stop considering Teams as a simple online meeting app, which is right now a big problem for a lot of educational institutions who discover very lately Office 365 education and Teams. So that is the agenda I will follow today. You can, if you have any question, please feel free to ask your question on the chat, and at the end of the session, I will take some moments to answer this question. Okay, so let's jump on the first fact, the situation. The COVID impact on education. As you can see on my slide, there are 2 graphics, and in April 12, there were 194 countries with schools closure, and yesterday, or 2 days ago, there were still 111 countries with school closures, and it's very huge. It is a very huge numbers. So to face this situation, a lot of schools and educational institutions turn their teaching process in cloud, like Office 365 education. And right now, there are 183,000 tenants in 175 countries using Teams for education. This is also a huge number. And we have a recent survey run by Microsoft Education for teachers and school leaders, and there were 2 interesting numbers. 61% of teachers and schools leaders expect to begin the next school years in a hybrid learning environment. Hybrid, which is a mix of remote and in-person learning, and 87% said they expect to use technology more than before. This is very interesting, those 2 percentages, because it tells us that from now, cloud and especially Office 365 education and Teams education will be certainly a big part for the teaching learning process for schools for the school years coming. The third fact is about Microsoft Teams education version, which is very different from the Microsoft Teams business version. There are some difference between the 2 versions, and as you can see on my slide, the main difference is that in business version you don't have the assignment tab, and there is an assignment tab in education. And inside Teams, as you know, this is a central hub where teachers and students will be able to do a lot of things, like creating a Word, collaborate on a Word, and the same thing for PowerPoint, Excel, recording videos in Microsoft Stream, answering some quiz. And the the most important thing is that when you are working with Microsoft Teams Education, you will have to use the OneNote. And one more time, this is a special education version, and we will see it just after this slide. The second interesting thing in Microsoft Teams Education is that you can use it on all platforms, Windows platforms, Mac, and mobile platforms like iOS and Android. And if you want to use it by browser, you can use it on this browser, but there are some kind of difficulties, especially if you are running some online meeting, if you are doing some virtual class meeting. I do not recommend you to use Firefox browser because it will not work, and I don't recommend you to use Safari browser because it will not work also. So be aware of this. If students are using only the online version, it's better to use the Edge version and the Chrome version. And beside this, the third thing that is very nice inside Microsoft Teams Education is that you can integrate some third-party tools, and I list some of them right there. I don't know if you know these tools, but briefly, Flipgrid is a nice tool for students if they want to record a video. Workalate is a curation tool that is also very good. WooClap is online quiz tools. MindMaster, Quizlet, Mindono is mind mapping tools. We have a great tools called Insight, and I will present it just after. And we can also use some quick poll tools like Poly. And beside this, obviously, we have some features to do some online training. So that is a huge difference between the business version and the education version. The next big difference between those two versions is about teams. When you are on a business version, basically when you want to create a team, you do not have any choice. You just create a team. But when you are on Office 365 Education, when you are on a Microsoft Teams Education, you have basically 4 types of teams you can create: the class teams, the professional learning community teams, the staff teams, and the other teams. And the big difference between those 4 types of teams is about the OneNote. And as you can see, when you create class teams, it comes directly with the OneNote education version with 3 spaces. That is very different. The contents library for teachers if they want to organize their learning resources, the collaboration space, and the student portfolio. When you choose the PLC, the professional learning communities, it's much like as a business version because you do not have any specific space, and all the sections are editable. When you are in a class teams and staff teams, those spaces have settings by default, and if I choose the content library, the contents library is editable for teachers, but read only for students. So that is the difference we have to keep in mind. Let's jump in the best practice. I saw in many schools, and best practice I also teach to educators and teachers when they are using Teams, especially in hybrid learning environment. The first best practice is you have an important information, so then use announcement. This is very important, especially if you are running a lot of virtual class meeting or online class meeting inside a Microsoft Teams class. For example, this class is the class 4C. My advice will be to create a specific channel called virtual class meeting. And inside these channels, you will put only the invitation for the next virtual meeting classes. And for students to have access directly to this invitation and to find easily this invitation, it's better to use the announcement. Maybe you are familiar with this if you're using Microsoft Teams regularly. When you write a post, you can choose in these parts to make an announcement. And when you choose an announcement, the nice thing is that you have a big space coming with some illustration you can insert. So for teachers and students, it is very good to find quickly the link to access for the next virtual class. So this is my first best practice. So how do I know if students will join my online class? Just create a channel, a specific channel, and inside these specific channels, when you are set up the invitation, just edit it to make an announcement. It's better for students to find directly the link. The next best practice is about the chat. There is a chat and you have to use it. And I know a lot of educators are not comfortable with that, but really, if you do not use a chat inside a Teams class, it is a big loss. So the question is, how do I encourage students to help each others or guessing the why in learning contents? Just use the conversation. And as you can see in my slide, I put a good example in French language class. The teachers set up a PowerPoint, and basically here, this is a text written in past tense. And the task teachers ask to students is that you have to read this text and you have to guess why in that case we use this past tense and why in another case we use another past tense. And for this, teachers use the conversation tab. And as you can see on my slide, there are a lot of communication run by students and run by teachers and students about guessing why in that case we use this past tense and why in other case we use another past tense. And the interesting things about chat is that also when students have a problem, when students do not understand a fact in class, then he can use the chat, the publication, the conversation channel to ask his question, and basically other students will answer this question. So this is good when you are not physically present in class, when we are in distant learning. The chat tools is a very interesting thing to use as an educator. The third practice is how do I let students replay resources or meeting videos? And for this, the recommendation is that inside a Teams class, you have to set video channels. And to do this, there is a tools inside Office 365 Education that you might know called Microsoft Stream. And you can add with the plus button right there, you can add the stream. And inside this, you will create a specific video channel for your class. And the interesting thing is that these channels will be accessible only for students in that class and the teachers. So they will not have indirect access into this. And teachers will put in that video channels all the resource he use for classes and all the recording for virtual class meetings. So this is also a nice thing to set up, especially in hybrid learning environment. Just click on the plus sign and add a stream channel for students, and students will have access to all the video contents you will put in there. Let's go to the next best practice. How do I let students explain learning process or speak foreign language by recording video at their own pace? And for this, as I explained it just before, there is some EdTech partners with Microsoft Teams Education, and there is a good one called Flipgrid. Flipgrid is free, and you can connect directly with your Office 365 account. So this is nice for teachers and students. They don't have to create another account to access these tools. They can access it directly with their Office 365 education account. And basically, we added as a tab. As you can see here, we can click on the plus sign and we can add it a Flipgrid. And teachers will ask a question for students, and students will answer this question by recording the video, and they can do this directly into Microsoft Teams. They just have to click on the big plus button, so they will record their answer. And the nice things about this is that if they are not happy with their recording, they can erase it and just record another replay. So this is good for shy students or introvert students to integrate it directly into Microsoft Teams class. And as a teachers, as you can see on my slide, I will see all the recording production from students. So this is good also if you want to keep a communication with students, especially if we are in distant teaching process. Let's go on the next best practice is about tracking. How do I know if students are active? This is a big question for a lot of educators, as you are not running online class meeting all day. You are running maybe online class meeting only in the morning, but after this session, you do not know if students are still active into the Teams. And for this, Microsoft Teams just push a nice free tools called Insights. And this tools is only on Office 365 Education, I guess. I did not see it on Office 365 Business. And these tools basically will give teachers some nice information about students. I will explain it just right now. As you can see, there is an attention mark, and this attention mark will tell teachers that these students are not active into the Teams. So you will see directly if students will have a big impact in a Teams or not. And once you have the name of students, then you can contact these students with the one-on-one chat if your institution enable it. And then you have also another type of information, as you can see, for example, with these students on a specific day, we can set for all times 30 days, 7 days, and 2 days. And when we click on a specific times, maybe it's not clear for you, but it is times right there, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. And then for every student, you will be able to see at these times, these students, what kind of action he did or she did inside the team. And as you can see here, these students view this file, comment this file, create this file, post 3 messages, and react to 4 messages. So this is very good to, this is a nice tool if you want to track activities of students inside Teams. So basically you have a lot of tabs right there, digital activities, average grade, on time assignment, time for feedback concern the assignment you are running inside the team. And this tab, communication activities, it is pretty near the this one, but it will give you more information about which students are the most active in a class and which students are the less active in a class. So if you don't know these tools, and if you are an educator, or if you have an Office 365 education platform, I really recommend you to integrate it directly into a Teams class. And to do this, the process is the same. You click on the plus button and you will just add the Insight tab. Let's go to the pitfall. There are 3 pitfalls I would like to present. The first and the big one I saw many times in educational institution is that a lot of them are creating Teams class without using OneNote class, and this is really bad. Because if you do not use OneNote, then you will have a very complicated resource management. As you can see in that part, this is a team class without a OneNote, and they create folder, and inside this folder they create a subfolder, and inside this subfolder they create another subfolders, and for each folders they open the SharePoint to set up the permission, the editable permission or the read-only permission. That is very complicated for educators, and in my opinion, is not the way how you have to do it. The proper way is to use the OneNote education version. And as I explained you just before, there are 3 spaces: the contents library, where teachers put resources, the collaboration space, and the student's portfolio. And as you can see, for each space, there are settings run by default. For contents library, it is editable by teachers and read-only for students. For collaboration space, it is editable by teachers and students. And for the student portfolio, it is editable by teachers and editable by students in his or her portfolio. So you have this solution, and this solution have interesting settings. So if you're running a Teams class, do not forget to use the OneNote class notebook, because it is the tool to run properly resources and online classes inside the team. So that was the first pitfall. The second pitfall concern online class meeting and malicious students. I know that Microsoft is aware of this problem and will maybe they're working on a policy for this. But right now, when you set up a meeting, if you set up a meeting without using the meeting option, the dangerous thing is that all the participants will be as presenter, organizer, and the risk is that students will be able to mute or kick other in meetings. And as an educator, you do not want your students to have these possibilities. So when you set up a meeting inside a class, a virtual class inside a class, you have to go to the meeting option. And in meeting option, you have to set up who can present to only me. And if you choose this option, the educators will be as a presenter and all students will be as participants. And in that way, educators will be able to mute all mic of students, and students will not be able to kick other outside the meetings. So this is a nice and a very important fact to know as an educator. If you are setting up online meetings, you have really to think about it. Set students as attendees. The third pitfall and maybe we have that the same pitfall in business version, I guess, is the channels creation process. You have really to think easy access and students first. And as you can see, I put some bad examples I see on many educational institutions, which is only the general channels and without any other channels. This is not a good example. The general channels is only to give some specific information, but if you want to give a student some other information, thematic information or subject information, then you have to create a specific channel for this. But if you create a specific channels, be aware of the number of channels. As you can see here, there is some 32 more channels. This is not easy for students to find the information. So be aware of this. The maximum channels I will recommend to create in a Teams class is 10 channels. Above 10 channels, it would be very complicated for students to find the information. And last, the private channels. As you can see, if you have a general channel and a lot of private channels, I don't catch the meaning of creating a team, as a team means that you have to communicate and collaborate with all of the people inside the team. So if you create only private channels, you don't have to create a team class for this. So be aware of this. Don't abuse private channels creation, because it is not the way it has to be. I gave you an example for a team class, the class 4C. You can use icons. And this is an example where channels will be about skills, writing skills, phonetic, vocabulary skills, and speaking skills. So you can create different channels depending on the skills or depending on the subject. It's really up to educators for this, but be aware of creating many channels. Let's jump to expectation. As I see the time is running out. Coming this fall, and this is very good also for educators, we will be able to have 49 attendees, 777 class meeting view. This is very awaited from educators. So I hope it will come this fall. And the next announcement that was very great from Microsoft Teams is about breakout rooms, a simple way to create breakout rooms. Right now, you can create breakout rooms inside a Teams class, but if you do this, you will have a very complicated setting up a meeting process. You can do this, but for educators who are not very skilled with digital, it can be very difficult. So this breakout room process also is very awaited from educators from all over the world. But we have to mention some other specific problems mentioned by educators, and all of this you can find it in Microsoft Teams user voice. And the first problem is how we can prevent students to invite other students within progress meetings. This is a big problem, and as you can see, Microsoft is aware of this. There is just aware, not working on it, but just aware. So if you want to vote it, I recommend it to vote on this user voice. The next is wait in lobby for students. This is also very huge. And as you can see, Microsoft is working on it. What is wait in lobby? When you create a Teams, basically, who can bypass the lobby? There is no option with no one. And educators will really like to have the no one option, because without this option, students, if you schedule a Teams maybe one day before or 2 days before, students will have the possibilities to access a meeting with that link without the presence of the teachers. So it can be very a problem. So I hope that the wait-in lobby for students will be rolled out very soon. The group assignment inside the Teams, you can only create an assignment for one people, but if you want a group of students to submit a work, there is no option. So Microsoft is aware of this. And the last option is maybe it concerns also you if you are working on a business version, is that you do not want to have the notification in general channels when a new member is added to a team or when a member was deleted from a team. I really understand this in terms of reading, the general channel reading. You have that kind of notification, and for me, this notification are no sense. So that's why a lot of people vote for this, and I hope Microsoft will roll out soon this possibility to erase that kind of notification inside a general channel. That's it for my session, as it was very short, 30 minutes. If you have questions, I will answer it right now.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, so we do have a couple of questions.
Yep.
So there's one around, is the stream version on the business tenant versus the education tenant different regarding limitations on storage, quality, and sharing?
No, absolutely not. There's no difference, and I don't remember exactly about storage, but it is very huge. So no problem for educational institution to use massively stream.
Yeah, thank you. And I actually have a question which I published. So I'm wondering, can you extract all of the class engagement reporting data from Teams and then use it in, say, Power BI or other reporting tools, or even import it into a CRM solution such as Dynamics 365? Because what you see in terms of the engagement of the students is really great in Teams, but is there a way to get that data, the underlying data, out into something else?
Exactly, exactly. But the answer is about licensing. And
Right.
that is a big problem for educational institution. As you know, if you want to have the Power BI Pro licensing in educational tenant, you will have to get A5 licensing, which is quite expensive for a lot of educational institution. So yes, the answer definitely, if you want to extract more activities, Power BI and Dynamics are very great tools to do this. But the question is do we have to pay that kind of licensing to just extract that kind of data? I don't have a clear answer about this, but I know that, for example, in France and in Switzerland, the A5 licensing educational institutions are very few. Most of them are running just A1 tenant. and some of them are also running A3, but I do not know much educational institution with A5 licensing.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I think we've got one more question just come in. Okay, yep. So given the current problems that you describe, how do you rate Teams as an alternative to Zoom, or as a current solution for teaching or for community groups?
Yeah, actually, this question is interesting, but we cannot compare Zoom to Microsoft Teams because Zoom is only an online meeting application, tools, and Microsoft Teams is obviously an online meeting application. Plus, as I show you, maybe I can go back to this slide. Yeah, this one. Plus, you can also, inside an online meeting or beside an online meeting, you will have the possibilities in the same environment to create files or to collaborate on files very easily, which is not possible right now with Zoom. So that is the big difference.
Sure, and I think the other thing to note is that Microsoft are working very hard to catch up the offerings in terms of the parity with Zoom. As you know, I work in a education establishment, and actually we already have the preview version of 7x7 for a few people, and it is amazingly good. So it's highly likely that that will roll out quite quickly. I've also seen the alpha version of the breakout rooms from someone at Microsoft, and again, that looks like it's going to be a real game changer for Teams too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There's a couple more questions that have just come in. So there's one around, is there a Microsoft Teams global education user group to help schools get up to speed on Teams quickly in time for the next school year?
Yeah, there is one. Let me see if I can show you. There is one called remote. Maybe you will find some information from Mike Tolfsen from Microsoft Education. Maybe if there is, let me see if I have 1 second to show you.
While you're looking, Lauren, I can say that I know that there are global education user groups run by Microsoft for HE and for FE, certainly. And I'm pretty sure they have some schools-based ones as well. The other thing that Microsoft are very keen on is the Microsoft Innovative Educator certifications and the Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert Group. And they encourage those MIE experts to go and network with their local schools and their local contacts and to help other schools to adopt and use the Microsoft technologies. So, do get in contact with your local Microsoft account managers, because they should have access to the at least who is running those local Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert areas, to be able to point people in the right direction. So yes, there are a number of things, and from a very personal point of view, I work at Imperial College. We actually run an HE IT pros type group for those involved in the IT side of things for higher education. And we run a team with over 300 external guests on it from all around the world, predominantly the US and UK, but also elsewhere in Europe and Australia as well. And it serves as a real sort of a sounding board for people with ideas and sometimes grumbles, but it also works as a reference site, and people do post things that they've done, things that they've found, and other people learn from that as well. So it's been a really useful thing that we've had running for a couple of years. And if people wanted to find out more about that, they can have a look in some of the certainly the UK mailing lists, and there's information in there about that.
Yeah, exactly. MIE expert, yeah, is very good. Myself, I am myself an MIE expert master trainer, so
Yep.
yeah,
Yep,
it is good.
too.
And to answer the question, maybe there is this team called Enable Remote Learning Teams, and it is run by all Microsoft Teams people. As you can see here, there's some name that you might know, like Justin Fondo, Nick Smith, Colin, Mike, as I mentioned, and you will have a different type of channels. And inside these channels, all the people over the world ask the questions. As you can see here, waiting lobby versus students can start meeting without teachers. There is some question about this, and etc. Teams creation and structure, staff collaboration, assistant request, etc. And if you want to integrate this team, there is no condition. It is free. You will just have to find the link for this, but maybe I cannot give you the link right now, but if you want to find it, I highly recommend that you contact this person, Mike Tolfsen. He has a Twitter account, so maybe you can just ask him on Twitter what is the process to integrate this team, Enable Remote Learning Team.
Great. Okay, and I think we've got one more question come through. Yep. Okay, so as a new Teams user, it would be helpful to share contact details on chat responses. So yes, I am trying to do that for you, and we'll also, what I'll do is I've put up my personal contact details so that anyone who's interested in the Imperial-based team can contact me, and we can help you get connected through that one as well. But as you say, if people look for Mike Tolfsen on Twitter or on LinkedIn, they'll find him there. Yeah. He's very, very active in the education space, and would be only too pleased to review this and to watch it and to also link to it as well, I think. So
yeah, right. exactly, yeah.
Okay, so in fact, I guess, Laurent, maybe if you find any links in the meantime, you might be able to deliver them into the breakout session, which is going to start in a couple of minutes.
Okay,
perfect. So I'm going to post the link for the breakout session into the announcements. So okay, so that link is now there. So unless there are any more new questions, I guess we'll say thank you very much, Laurent, for your time today presenting.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian.
Thank you to the attendees for joining us today. And I'll leave the link live for a couple of minutes, and then I will end the session in a few seconds. So thank you all.